Wow, this is so awesome. Bobby, thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's what an honor to be here. I'm here at the Welcome Conference in front of people that I respect and people that I see as peers. Such a great honor. Thanks, Welcome Conference, and thanks, Will. So, it's a welcome conference, so allow me to welcome you. I want to welcome you in Korean. I want to say hi in Korean. Would you like to learn this with me? If you don't mind, please stand up. Thank you. So, to say hi in Korean, it's 안녕하세요. Let's begin. 안녕하세요. Awesome. Let's do it again. So it's not 안녕하세요, it's 안녕하세요. Ready? 안녕하세요. Beautiful. Now, to make it extra welcoming, let's go ahead and give it a little bow. 안녕하세요. Thank you very much. Please. 안녕하세요. So my name is Simon Kim, but my Korean name is Kim Shijun. And I was born and raised in Seoul. And I was a very short little kid. I was born and raised in Seoul, and I grew up in a town called Gangnam. Many of you have not been there, but all of you have heard of it. You know where? Oppan Gangnam Style. Yeah. So I'm Gangnam Style. So I grew up in Gangnam, and I grew up in this small apartment complex. It's upper middle class apartment complex, very small. There was an elementary school, there's a middle school, and there's a high school, and a bunch of high-rise apartment buildings. And my house was right here, my apartment was here. And on my way to my elementary school, there were about 14 different vendors. You know, fruit guys, like meat guys, like toy stores. And I was also pretty very small kid. Korea in the 80s, pretty badass country. So in elementary school, you have 30 kids. And they would just go in random, just line them up. The shortest one comes to the front, the oldest one, the largest one go to the back, and then start naming, numbering. So 1, 2, 3, and then 30 was the tallest kid, 1 was the shortest kid. Obviously, girls were a little shorter, so girls were there, and the boys were there, and I was number 7, so I was very, very short. And my favorite TV show at the time was MacGyver. Does anyone know MacGyver? It's 80s? Yeah. So he had a very unique hairstyle for Koreans, right? So my mother actually gave me this mullet, hairstyle. So I'm a short little Korean kid with a mullet, business in the front and party in the back, right? So this kid goes to school, and every day, I would leave my apartment and pass by the stores. So fruit guys, 안녕하세요, the meat guys, 안녕하세요, the toy store, 안녕하세요, and they'll joke, that's the little mayor, because I always said it, And I guess it was very unusual and delightful for them because they would give me free stuff. And they'll give me a bag of apples, and I don't want to take that, but somebody gives to you, so you take it home, and my mother would come home. She's my hero, by the way. And she would come home, and she would notice a random bag of apples. She'd be like, what happened? The fruit guys gave it to me. And she's like, no, you gotta go return that. So there was constant struggle of taking stuff home because I couldn't say no, and then taking stuff back. Anyways, so in Korea, in that town, I felt so belonged, I knew everybody, and everybody knew me. That was home. I felt strong sense of belonging, that this is undoubtedly my home. And when I was 13 years old, our family decided to come to America. And that completely uprooted me. I came to New York. I was excited to go to the land of MacGyver, though. But I was intimidated. It was the first day of school. I'm going to school for the first time. This is my first entry into this social setting. I don't speak the language. I don't speak the language. I don't know anybody there. So I was nervous. And then I noticed, I think his name was Josh. And he looked at me. It's first day of school. He literally, no joke, growled at me as I walked in. I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? And then in the middle of a class, he got up and he actually physically attacked me. But I was a feisty kid from Korea, so I kind of handled him. And I handled him. And from then on, it was actually pretty smooth. I started to learn the language. I made some friends. And I felt, knew the teachers. I felt like this was becoming my home. But it was not quite that, right? It was not quite that. I felt like it was home, but it was not a home. What Americans saw an Asian immigrant, and they were nice about it. They wanted to welcome me. It's just that I was not quite one of them, if you will. So it was difficult. And then, about 5 years in, trying to fit in, somewhat successfully so, and then I had an opportunity to go back to Korea. And I was so excited to go back, because I go back to where I belonged, the place where I felt like home. And I went there and met old friends and all the Apple guys and, them. But for some reason, they saw an American in me now. I was no longer one of them. So here I was, I don't belong in America. And I go back home, I don't belong at home either. And I think that's when my identity crisis really started to take place. I don't belong here, nowhere there. And then, as I was looking for my identity, I found the restaurant business. I fell in love with the business because it was such a welcoming place. No one really belonged, but everyone really belonged. And it was a motley crew of people that didn't necessarily belong anywhere. Lots of immigrants, lots of people, but we all come together. We call this place a home. And we spent a lot of time in that home too. 60 hours minimum, maybe 80 sometimes. And along the way, I met some amazing people, and I worked for an amazing guy like Tom Brown, amazing guy like Anthony Rudolph, and I learned so much. And I fell in love with this industry. And I remember, it was a seafood restaurant in Times Square. I love this craft, so I'm really working hard to be the best at it. So put on my fanciest suit, being on the floor, trying to be part of the service, and I'm trying to perfect my skills. How can I be a great hospitality professional? And I remember, so I was on the floor. A waiter takes an order for $500 bottle of wine, and the sommelier on the floor was busy with another table. So the other suit was supposed to open the bottle of wine. So I grab the bottle of wine, and I show up to the table. I present the bottle the best I can, the best I learned. And the customer looks at me and basically asks me, can a white person open this bottle of wine? Whew, that really was devastating, right? Here I was. I thought I belonged here. This is where I deserved to be here. And there was a rejection. And that was really devastating. But you know what? We move on. I have a dream to open my own restaurant, so we push along. And finally, 2013, I raised a little bit of money, and it was time for me to open my own restaurant. And I wanted to belong here in New York. I want to be a New York restaurateur. So Korean American opens a restaurant that's Italian. Yeah, take that, yeah. But it was a beautiful restaurant in West Village, and everything was going right, except the money. I just didn't know how to make money. But restaurant was busy. Restaurant was busy, and we actually got a Michelin-starred awarded. It was like a dream come true. But for some reason, it felt a little not authentic. And Pete Wells, some people love him, some people don't like him, but what I do know is he's extremely sharp. So when I look back at the review that he gave us of that restaurant, Piora, he actually said something along the lines of, it's all good, but it feels awkward, kind of like in-laws trying to awkwardly please each other. And I think he's so spot on. Anyways. So that's what it was, right? I was serving Italian food with a little bit of Korean influence, but my nonna didn't serve that food to me. In fact, I don't have a nonna, But I do have a halmoni instead, which is grandma for Korean, obviously. And then we got a Michelin star. And receiving a Michelin star can be actually a double-edged sword. Because here I am, I don't know what to do. I didn't necessarily, I work for amazing chefs, and I work for amazing people, and multiple Michelin star restaurants, but I didn't necessarily know what that really meant. And I had to choose. Am I going to be this refined Michelin star restaurant or the cool, vibey restaurant that I used to have? The choice is pretty simple, right? I'm going to be the Michelin star restaurant, right? And I started pigeonholing myself into this serious, formal restaurant and continuously deviated from where we originally started. And as we moved further away from where we started, so did the profitability. And we struggled, and I would go out, and people would be like, oh, that's a Michelin star guy. I had literally less than $100 in my checking account. So many Irish goodbyes because I couldn't pay the bills. And it came to an end. I had to close the restaurant down after 6 years. From age of 30 until 36, I literally gave this place everything that I had, every ounce of life, energy, and soul. And I had to close that restaurant. You know what it felt like? I've never done this, but you know what it felt like? Euthanizing your own pet. That's how sad I was. And I was completely devastated. I started asking all sorts of questions. Who am I? Like, what am I? What is my purpose? Why am I here? What just happened? Because it was the saddest thing that I could face. And during that darkest of times, an epiphany happened. I realized I was asking the wrong question. Am I Korean or am I American? I'm Korean and American. The moment I changed, the moment I replaced or into and, it was like two balls. There was or was in the way. And the moment I lifted that away and welcomed these two, they hit. And you know what happens when two balls hit? Supernova happens. It's like Big Bang. And that's what COTE is. COTE is Korean barbecue restaurant and American steakhouse. And it's first of its kind. It's a Korean steakhouse. It's a place where you can have the best ingredients in the world with rather refined sequence of service, but a place where you can let your hair down and get lit AF. And literally, just like Supernova, everything happened. We got our Michelin star in like less than 6 months of opening, and I went to undergrad in Las Vegas, so I went to casino often. It was like ding, 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 ding. It was just like it was a jackpot, and like accolades continuously rained in. It was literally American dream, much, much, much more than that humble Asian Korean immigrant kid can ask for. It was such an humbling experience. And along the way, I got to meet some of the most amazing professionals. Where are you guys, Dragon Slayers? Maria, Sandre, Jacqueline, Tom, Victoria, Heather. And to them, also, it was not or, right? Am I their boss or am I their colleague? And they became my business partners, and they all have their share. And woo! And and this is literally the supernova happening, and then guess what happened, right? 2020 came, and spring 2020, literally the plug got unplugged. We're forced to close. We all know this. Restaurants are not meant to be closed. Restaurants are meant to be filled with people enjoying themselves, and bunch of our professionals all passionately enjoying what they do. So what do I do? What do I do? I felt like this felt like the last time I had to euthanize my own pet. That's what this felt like. So what do I do? What do I do? I don't know. But what I do know is I have my partners. And I can't furlough them. So we kept them on board. The only way we can get out of this is keep as many people on the boat without sinking the boat. That was the only name of the game. So we shoveled like crazy, right? We shoveled. My GM was making samjang sauce in the thing, and then my director of hospitality was, getting fulfillment center set up upstairs. So basically, we pivoted to delivery right away. You know how? Because we're Michelin-starred Korean steakhouse and the delivery restaurant. What else? And they said we can open outdoor. So we opened outdoor, just flat out, just cardboard, chairs on top of asphalt, cockroaches everywhere, but it's all good, right? Somebody's got to eat. And we're slinging frozes, and all of a sudden we're selling fried chicken. I don't know, Korean fried chicken is pretty good. So all of a sudden we're a delivery restaurant and fried chicken serving restaurant. And then we also did national delivery of our steak care package because our dry aging was filled with steak. And then we did wine club. All of a sudden we're doing wine subscription program to nationwide. And all of a sudden we just keep on adding because of power of and. Because we can be this and that. And of course, May 2020, I had an option to pull out of Miami project, right? Force majeure. This is time to pull out. But you know what? We can be New York and Miami. So we pushed ahead. And restaurant opened in 2021, February. And as things were getting better, the delivery, we're actually doing pretty good with our delivery. So we're actually making decent amount of revenue. And we also thought that there are people, I'm now in the proud chair of board member of City Harvest. So we wanted to help, right? And there are people that's food insecure. So is it us or is it them? I think it's us and them. So we pivoted to, once we pivoted to delivery, so we donated 5% of our top line revenue to City Harvest. And of course, we got a great opportunity to partake in helping frontline workers get fed with amazing food. So, power of and I think that is my story. And thank you. Thank you. But what about you guys, right? Let's think for a minute, right? Because I think we all have this. We all have conflicting identity that we have to choose one and suppress the other. Whether you're a mother or badass businesswoman, whether you're a fine dining professional or someone who loves to have fun, we all have this identity crisis in one way or the other. And I feel like once you stop asking that question of or and replace that or with and, I think the possibility becomes endless. And as we come back to Welcome Conference with the theme of Welcome Back, I encourage you to welcome and in your life. 감사합니다.